Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. Following up on the drone question from Ouija, the Soviet-era drone that flew over 3 NATO member states on Friday and then crashed into Croatia, has it been determined whether that was a Russian drone or a Ukrainian drone? And how do you measure, similar to what she was asking,
Sure.
how do you measure, what elicits a response?
Well, for the second part of your question, Jackie, good question. It is a conversation that happens between NATO allies and partners, not a decision that's made by one country. In terms of the first part, I don't have any details that I can outline for you from here.
And then what do you make of China today warning that Taiwan belongs to China and saying that it will not stop normal trade relations with Russia? What qualifies as helping Russia evade sanctions when it comes to China?
Well, let me note that during the lengthy conversation that our national security advisor had with his counterpart, he also reiterated our One China policy based on the Taiwan Relations Act, 3 communiques and 6 assurances, and underscored concerns about Beijing's coercive and provocative actions across the Taiwan Strait, which is, of course, our position publicly, but is also something that he took the time to reiterate during this conversation. There are a range of sanctions we obviously have in place, and we watch, of course, if there's a violation of those, and we also watch if there is support provided for the military invasion of another country. I don't have any assessment of that to provide to you today.
It sounds like secondary sanctions are on the table if China is found to be helping Russia either militarily or economically in this war. So why not be specific about the kinds of sanctions that we're considering, given that this administration's position is the mere threat of sanctions should be a deterrent?
Well, we're going to have those conversations directly with China and Chinese leadership, not through the media at this point in time. I would note that when our national security advisor was having his meeting yesterday, he was very direct about the consequences. He made clear we're going to be watching closely, made clear that it's not just us. The decisions that China makes are going to be watched by the world. So that is how they focus the meeting, but in terms of any potential impacts or consequences, we'll leave those through private diplomatic channels at this point.
One last one on Zelensky tomorrow. It sounds like we're pretty dug in on our position when it comes to the no-fly zone, when it comes to the MiGs, despite this growing bipartisan call in Congress to shift a little bit. So, to put it bluntly, is Zelensky wasting his time tomorrow asking for these things?
Well, I would say because of the passion and the courage and the bravery of President Zelensky, there has been support for expediting the delivery of a historic amount of military and security assistance and weapons that have helped him and his military fight back against the Russians. And I would say that, yes, we recognize there are a range of bipartisan calls, but what we have the responsibility to do here is to assess what the impact is on the United States and our own national security. A no-fly zone is escalatory and could prompt a war with Russia, a major nuclear power. Providing the planes, our military did an assessment that's based not just on the risk, but whether it would have a huge benefit to them. They assessed it would not, because they have their own squadron of planes, and because the type of military assistance that is working to fight this war effectively is the type of assistance we're already providing.
What about Estonia, though, calling for a no-fly zone? They're a NATO member. They share a border with Russia. How do we view their calls for a no-fly zone?
We disagree with the argument that that would be an effective step, because a no-fly zone, which often people shorthand, essentially means us shooting down Russian planes and them potentially shooting back at us. And I would note that the way that the Ukrainians, again, have effectively pushed back over the last 19 days is by using exactly the type of military assistance we have provided.